Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Amelia Wright, and in my 25 years of practice as a relationship counsellor here in London, I've seen thousands of people grapple with one of life's most profound questions. Is it better to be alone or to seek companionship in later life? Today I want to share something rather unexpected with you. Did you know that 73% of people over 65 report feeling more content when living independently? That's not me being pessimistic about love, it's simply what the research shows. And after working with countless individuals navigating relationships in their later years, I've come to understand exactly why this is. So, if you're over 65 and wondering whether you should pursue a new relationship or embrace your independence, this video is for you. Let me share 7 reasons why, for many of you, choosing to remain on your own might actually be the wiser choice. Before we dive in, I want to be clear about something. This isn't about giving up on love or intimacy. It's about making an informed choice that serves your well-being. Some of you will watch this and decide that companionship is absolutely what you want, and that's brilliant. Others will feel validated in your choice to remain independent. Both paths are equally valid. What matters is that you're making the decision consciously, with full awareness of what you're choosing. And if you've not yet subscribed to this channel, please do hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. I share practical advice every week for navigating life's complexities with wisdom and grace. Now, let me tell you about Margaret. She was 73 when she came to see me at my practice in Hampstead. She'd been happily living alone for 10 years following her husband's passing, and she'd built a lovely life for herself. She had her routines, her independence, her peace. Then she met Jeffrey at her local bowls club, and suddenly everything changed. He was keen, I'll give him that. Phoning her 3 times a day, wanting to know her whereabouts, suggesting they move in together after just 2 months. Margaret felt suffocated. She told me, "Dr. Wright, I thought something was wrong with me for not wanting this. Everyone keeps saying how lucky I am to have found someone at my age." But here's what I told her, and what I'm telling you now. There is absolutely nothing wrong with choosing your own company over constant companionship, especially at this stage of life. Let's talk about the first reason why being alone can be the better choice, and it's perhaps the most practical one. Your routines and habits are deeply ingrained, and that's not a bad thing. Think about the rhythms you've developed over the years. Perhaps you wake at 6 every morning, have your tea whilst reading the Telegraph, then potter about in the garden before lunch. Maybe you prefer your evening meal at 5:30, followed by a bit of telly and bed by 9. These aren't just habits, they're the architecture of your day. They bring you comfort, structure, and peace. When you enter a new relationship at 65 or beyond, all of this gets disrupted. Suddenly, you're negotiating everything. He wants breakfast at 8, you want it at 6:30. You like Coronation Street, he's mad about football. You cherish your Saturday morning lie-in, he wants to be up and at the garden centre by 7. It sounds trivial, doesn't it? But I've seen countless relationships founder on exactly these sorts of incompatibilities. One gentleman I worked with in Kensington told me he'd spent 40 years perfecting his morning routine, only to have it completely upended by a new partner who thought his habits were too rigid. The stress of constant compromise wasn't worth it to him. The second reason is financial independence and stability. Now, I know money isn't the most romantic topic, but in later years, it's not merely about buying groceries or paying the bills. It's about security, about knowing you can manage your affairs without anyone else's interference or approval. You've likely worked hard all your life. You've saved. You've planned for your retirement. Why would you want to complicate that now? I've seen too many situations where merging finances in later life has led to absolute disaster. There's the question of inheritances, of what happens to your estate when you pass, of how money gets spent day to day. One chap from Surrey told me his children were furious when he began sharing expenses with a new partner. worried about their inheritance. The family drama was unbearable. He ended the relationship just to restore peace. In later years, money represents stability and peace of mind. Sharing it with someone new can introduce complexity and conflict that you simply don't need. The third reason, and this one's rather significant, is emotional energy. Let me be frank with you. Relationships require work. They require patience, communication, compromise, and emotional labor. At 65 or 70 or 75, do you really want to be doing all that heavy lifting again? You've likely already navigated decades of relationships. You've learned how to communicate. You've dealt with conflicts and compromises. Perhaps you're simply tired of it all. A new relationship at this stage means learning someone else's emotional landscape all over again. Their triggers, their insecurities, their needs. It means having difficult conversations about expectations and boundaries. It means dealing with jealousy, possessiveness, or neediness. Margaret's Geoffrey, for instance, was quite needy. He needed constant reassurance, wanted to know where she was at all times, got upset if she spent time with her friends instead of him. She found it exhausting. After years of peace, she wasn't willing to take on that emotional burden again. Here's the fourth reason, and it's one that many of you will relate to. You've finally earned the right to be selfish, and I mean that in the most positive way possible. For decades, you've likely put others first. Your spouse, your children, your parents, your career. You've sacrificed, you've compromised, you've bent yourself into shapes to accommodate others. Now, finally, you're free. You can wake when you want, eat what you fancy, spend your money as you please, see whom you like. Why would you give that up? One of my clients, a retired teacher from Brighton, put it brilliantly. He said, "For 50 years I've been on someone else's schedule, my wife's, my children's, my headmaster's. Now I'm 72 and I can finally do exactly as I please. I'm not giving that up for anyone." And you know what? Good for him. There's nothing wrong with prioritizing your own happiness and freedom at this stage of life. You've earned it. The fifth reason is rather delicate, but it's important. The complications that come with adult children and established families. By the time you're 65, you likely have grown children, perhaps grandchildren. You've got established family dynamics, traditions, relationships. Introducing a new partner into this can create absolute chaos. I've worked with several people whose adult children were deeply resistant to a parent's new relationship. Sometimes it's about inheritance worries. Sometimes it's about loyalty to a deceased parent. Sometimes it's simply about not wanting change. One woman I counselled had a daughter who refused to visit anymore if the new partner was present. The strain on their relationship was heartbreaking. She eventually ended the romance to preserve her relationship with her daughter and grandchildren. And it's not just children. There are grandchildren to consider, siblings, extended family. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone has concerns. Is it really worth navigating all that drama and potential conflict? For many of you, the answer is no. Now here's the sixth reason, and it might surprise some of you, the freedom to maintain spontaneity and flexibility. You might think that being in a relationship offers spontaneity, but actually the opposite is often true, especially in later life. When you're on your own, you can decide on a whim to visit your mate in Cornwall, book a last-minute trip to the Lake District, or spend the entire weekend in your pajamas if you fancy it. No explanations needed. No negotiations required. In a relationship, even small decisions become discussions. Shall we go out for Sunday lunch? What do you fancy for tea? Whose family are we visiting at Christmas? Every choice requires consultation and compromise. The spontaneity you once valued can get lost in endless discussions and negotiations about how, when, and where you'll spend your time. A retired solicitor I worked with in Oxford loved his spontaneity. He'd drive to the coast on sunny mornings, visit museums on rainy afternoons, travel to Europe when the fancy struck him. When he entered a new relationship, all of that changed. His partner wanted plans, schedules, advance notice. He felt trapped. Eventually he realized he valued his freedom more than the companionship. The seventh and final reason is perhaps the most important: protecting your mental and emotional peace. A partnership can certainly be comforting, but it should never come at the cost of your inner tranquility. And let's be honest, relationships bring stress. They bring disagreements, hurt feelings, misunderstandings. They bring the anxiety of wondering if you're doing enough, being enough. At this stage of life, is that really what you want? I've worked with clients who describe their single years as the most peaceful of their lives. No arguments over trivial matters, no walking on eggshells, no worrying about someone else's moods or needs. Just blessed peace and quiet. One gentleman told me, "I spent 40 years in a marriage that was fine but exhausting. Now I wake up every morning in peace. No one's cross with me, no one needs anything from me. I can just be. That's not loneliness speaking, that's contentment." Now, before you think I'm entirely against relationships in later life, let me share something important. There is a middle path that many people find works brilliantly, and it's something I call together but separate. This is the model where you maintain a romantic relationship but keep separate homes. You see each other regularly, you share experiences. Perhaps you're even quite committed to each other, but you each maintain your own space, your own routines, your own independence. I've seen this work wonderfully for many couples. They enjoy companionship without sacrificing autonomy. They have intimacy without the daily friction of cohabitation. They support each other whilst maintaining their individual lives. It's the best of both worlds, really. If you're someone who wants connection but also values independence, this might be worth considering. Let me also acknowledge something important here. Some of you watching this are perfectly happy in new relationships you've formed after 65. You've found wonderful partners, you've blended your lives beautifully, and you're thriving. That's absolutely marvelous. This video isn't suggesting that all later life relationships are doomed or undesirable. Rather, it's making the case that choosing to remain independent is equally valid and, for many people, preferable. The key is self-awareness. What do you truly want at this stage of your life? Not what your children think you should want, not what society expects, not what your mates at the pub reckon, but what you genuinely want for yourself. Some of you genuinely want companionship, and you should pursue it. Others genuinely want independence, and you should embrace it without guilt or apology. I've noticed something in my years of practice. The people who are happiest in later life are those who've made conscious, deliberate choices about how they want to live. They're not following a script written by someone else. They're not doing what they think they should do. They're honoring their authentic desires and needs. Whether that means partnering up or staying solo, what matters is that it's their choice, made with full awareness and self-knowledge. So how do you know what's right for you? Start by getting brutally honest with yourself. Imagine your ideal day. From the moment you wake until you go to sleep, what does it look like? Are you sharing it with someone, or are you blissfully alone? When you imagine your future, your next 5 or 10 years, what brings you genuine joy and peace? The answer to that question is your answer. Also, examine your past. What have your previous relationships taught you about yourself? What patterns have you noticed? Are you someone who thrives in partnership, or do you do better on your own? There's no shame in either answer. Some people are natural partners, others are natural soloists. Neither is better than the other. Consider your current life as well. Are you actually lonely, or are you just being told you should be? There's an enormous difference. True loneliness is painful and isolating. But if you've got mates, hobbies, family, community involvement, and you're genuinely content, you're not lonely, you're independent. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. I want to address something that comes up frequently in my practice: the fear of dying alone. Many people pursue relationships in later life primarily because they're terrified of ending their days by themselves. But here's what I've learned from working with hospice counsellors and end-of-life care providers. Being in a relationship doesn't guarantee you won't die alone, and being single doesn't mean you will. What matters is having a community around you, whether that's family, friends, neighbours, or a faith community. I've known married people who died alone because their spouse was ill or unavailable. I've known single people who died surrounded by devoted friends and family. The quality of your connections matters far more than your relationship status. So if you're choosing partnership purely out of fear of dying alone, that's not a good enough reason. Build strong connections with people you care about, maintain your friendships, stay involved in your community. That's what will truly matter in the end. Let me also say this. If you do choose to remain independent, that doesn't mean isolating yourself. Loneliness and solitude are very different things. Loneliness is painful and harmful to your health. Solitude is peaceful and restorative. You can be alone without being lonely. Make sure you're maintaining social connections, engaging with your community, nurturing friendships. Humans are social creatures. We need connection. But that connection doesn't have to come from a romantic partner. Stay active in your local community, whether that's through volunteer work, social clubs, religious organizations, or hobby groups. Maintain close relationships with family and friends. Use technology to stay connected with people you care about. Schedule regular social activities. These connections will nourish you and keep loneliness at bay, while still allowing you the independence you value. I want to leave you with this thought. You've lived long enough to know yourself. You've accumulated decades of wisdom and self-knowledge. You understand what brings you joy and what causes you stress. You've earned the right to structure your life exactly as you see fit. If that means choosing independence over partnership, that's not settling. That's wisdom. It's not giving up on love. It's choosing self-love and peace. You don't owe anyone a relationship. You don't have to pursue companionship to prove you're not lonely or bitter. You don't need to partner up to have value or worth. You are complete as you are. If you choose to share your life with someone, brilliant. If you choose to keep it to yourself, equally brilliant. What matters is that you're making the choice consciously and honoring what's true for you. So to all of you watching this, I want you to know you have permission to choose yourself. You have permission to prioritize your peace, your routines, your independence, your happiness. You've spent decades caring for others, compromising, adjusting, accommodating. If you want to spend your remaining years pleasing only yourself, you've earned that right. There's nothing selfish or wrong about it. It's simply wisdom. Thank you so much for watching. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Are you happily independent, or have you found love later in life? What's your experience been? Share your story. You might help someone else who's grappling with these same questions. And if you found this helpful, please give it a thumbs up and share it with anyone who might benefit from hearing this message. Don't forget to subscribe for more practical wisdom about navigating life with grace and intention. Until next time, take care of yourselves.